Are you having trouble with your blasters, defenders, controllers, and corruptor characters that all have really low hit point amounts that they can use? I'm Controlled Chaos, and in this video I'm going to go over some tips and tricks to help you out with playing those characters so that you have a more survivable chance. Let's go ahead and get started. So the first tip I have for you is listen to the sounds. When you listen to the sounds, you can hear when enemies are nearby. So the next tip is I suggest take something like flight, or you can take super jump, but I mainly suggest flight because, as you can see here, I'm staying out of his melee range, so it limits what kind of attacks he can do, and that's very important. And so you just have to be careful when you do things like that. So as you see, I was able to get that guy down pretty easily. And you also want to pick your targets carefully. You want to spread out your targets like I did with this one. That way you're not being ganged up by multiple guys at one time. If you have powers that have knockdowns and knockbacks and things like that, make sure to put the points into that. That's very important. So the next thing I want to mention is when you have blind corners like this, pie the corner. Look at what you have. Scout the area out fully before going in, like I'm doing here. You see, I'm not just straight going in. I'm looking around, seeing what's about, and going from there. Then I'm going to wait for them to be split by a bit, get into my distance, and I'm gonna pull one, and you notice I'm pulling back. And you notice I'm staying once again up in the air. That's very, very helpful. So that guy's gone, and I just move in and I move to the next one. Now, controllers will have an easier time with this tactic. And the reason being is that they have the ability to do roots and holds. So them being able to pull this off is a lot easier. But you can still pull this off with defenders, and you can still pull this off with blasters. It's just a bit harder because they don't have a lot of roots and holds. So, you know, like right now I'm playing a defender. I have abilities that have pushbacks, I have abilities that have knockdowns and things like that, and I utilize them when need be. I also survey the area and go from there. And I use my powers accordingly. So as you saw, I waited for them to separate out, like I was mentioning, and then I went in for the attack. I'm actually holding back on some abilities while I'm talking to you about this. But my number one thing that I like using with, oops, got stunned here, so we just have to wait for that to break. The number one thing I mention is with this, with characters that have low hit points compared to like brutes, tanks, scrappers, and such, flight is a good power to have. It is really nice to keep that damage from getting heavily done to you, because they're not able to get the melee attack. Now you notice I'm getting attacked by multiples here, and that's fine. You can survive multiples, especially when they're same level to you and things like that. But you want to keep a close eye on your health. Know when to run. If you need to do hit and run tactics, do the hit and run tactics. You don't need to kill all of them in one go. You can wait it out. You can rest up. use your rest. It does repop a lot quicker and a lot, so that helps a good amount. And that's why I recommend in that setting. It also helps if you have some powers that actually give you some defense, such as I have hover here. So in my hover, if I go into manage the enhancements, you'll notice that in hover, I'm starting to put in defense buffs in hover so that I'm able to take more hits. Utilize those things. So if you don't have flight, but instead use super jump, you can take combat jump. Will really help out. So if you're really good with speed, super speed, and able to maneuver around and hit with super speed, you could also take super speed, and that works. But you have to have a good focused mind for super speed and know timing really well to get that one to work for hit and run type tactics. That's where flight is really helpful. Because flight, you don't need to worry about the timing. You can just hover there and do what's needed, which is nice. You can take your time with it, just like I'm doing here. And sometimes you may need to adjust, like I did there, and that's fine. You can drop down to the ground with your flight to get the angle you need, but make sure you pull yourself back up because you want to eliminate the number of attacks that they are doing on you. See, like, look at that. He just got in and was able to do a good attack on me. And that's never a good thing. That's why height in flight is really good. So it's using other powers to your advantage and making sure that everything works towards you, which is why I mentioned if you have, let's say you're a dark blaster, you would then want to focus your dark blasts to have a bunch of 2-hit debuffs on them. That way, that lessens the chance of the enemy hitting you. Once again, adding to the advantage. It's a must. It helps out so much. There's other ways than just being a tank to negate the damage. And that is through secondaries. Because some abilities will give you a defense buff or an attack and go that direction. But overall, those are the tips that I have for you. If you have any further questions or any other further tips you'd like to add, please comment down below and have a great day.